Hi, I'm Kenzie. Welcome back to my podcast. If you're just joining, welcome. Today we will be talking about my 17th Blue's Clues VHS, Telling Time with Blue. This VHS includes Blue Surprise at 2 o'clock and What Time Is It for Blue? First, let's talk about Blue Surprise at 2 o'clock. This episode starts out with Steve saying hi to the viewer and tries to tell Blue that the viewer was here, but she's not seen. Not even the viewer could see her. Then Steve had an idea. We could see how much time it takes to find Blue by using Steve's watch. Each time the red hand ticks, we count 1 second. So it took us 5 seconds to find Blue. Once Blue was found, she had a surprise for us, which would be ready at 2 o'clock. We checked the watch. It was not 2 o'clock yet. Steve tried urging the clock to get to 2 o'clock faster. Frankly, Steve didn't think we could wait until 2 o'clock. If only they had some clues. That's when Blue wanted to play Blue's Clues. But first Steve had to get rid of the paw print. He wound it like a clock. And so the game Blue's Clues has begun. We count 8 seconds to get to the kitchen. Steve was thirsty, so he had some orange juice. That's when the viewer spotted the first clue, which is orange juice. After the first clue was found, we go see Tickety Talk. It was still not 2 o'clock yet, but Tickety needed help telling time. So we help her. The big hand moves clockwise, and so does the little hand, but it moves slowly. When the little hand goes from the 1 to the 2, it's 2 o'clock. That's when a surprise happens. After helping Tickety tell time, it's mail time. The problem was Mailbox was late, so we wait and wait and wait. He was 1 minute and 1 second late. In the letter, our friends make Tickety Talks. After our friend gives us a popsicle stick and we say goodbye, the viewer spotted the second clue, which is a popsicle stick. After the second clue was found, Blue skidooed into the book. Steve does too. It turns out they were in a game called Race Against Time. All we had to do was figure out what the picture is before time is up. We get 15 seconds to guess each time. The pictures were a refrigerator, a sink, and Mr. Salt, Mrs. Pepper, and Paprika. Then if we guessed which room all these pictures belong in, we would find our last clue. It was a picture of a kitchen. So the last clue was in the kitchen. That's when the viewer spotted the third clue, which is an ice cube tray. That's also when Steve realized we had all 3 clues and it was time to sit in the thinking chair. It was time to think. We were trying to figure out what Blue Surprise is at 2 o'clock, and our clues were orange juice, a popsicle stick, and an ice cube tray. Steve thought, what if we pour the orange juice into the holes of the ice cube tray and put the popsicle sticks in them? Then you would put them in the freezer. The viewer guessed correctly that Blue Surprise at 2 o'clock is orange juice pops. At that point, Steve realized we just figured out Blue's Clues. After the celebratory song, Blue got the surprise out of the freezer, and surprise! The orange juice pops were made. Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper showed how to make them. Pour the orange juice into the holes of the tray, put the popsicle sticks in, put it in the freezer, and add one more thing. Time. Tickety Talk comes back to remind us how we helped her tell time. The voice from the Race Against Time game is heard too, to remind us of how we won that game. After a fun day, it was time for So Long, but sing just one more song. Now let's talk about the episode as a whole. I feel like kids can learn a lot if they want to learn about telling time. I mean, nowadays people are using digital clocks or their phones to check the time. This episode can really help kids learn. All in all, it's a good episode. Now let's talk about What Time Is It for Blue? This episode starts out with Steve and Blue cleaning up. After putting the final toy away, Steve wondered what comes after cleanup time. That's when Blue wanted to play Blue's Clues. But first Steve had to clean up the paw print. And so the game Blue's Clues has begun. The viewer spotted the first clue, which is a blanket. Steve thought it was time for Blue to hide under the blanket. That was wrong. Then we hear Tickety Talk. She was asleep. Steve accidentally wakes her up and all of Tickety's pieces fall off. They all fell off in the drawer. Blue skidooed into the drawer so she could fetch Tickety's pieces. She fetched her hands, her numbers, and her alarm bells. Then Blue went to the closet and made a huge mess. It turns out cleanup time wasn't finished after all. So we decided to help. We put away the pajamas, the footwear, and the stuffed toys. After cleanup time, the viewer spotted the second clue, which is a book. Steve thought it was blanket and book time. That was wrong. After the second clue is found, it's mail time. In the letter, a girl shows what her favorite times in school are. Music time, playtime, and lunchtime. After saying goodbye, Blue skidooed into the jungle. Steve did too. There we meet the Lion Prince. He was trying to find 3 animals so they could take their naps. We found the frog, the elephant, and the monkey by imitating them. After finding all the animals, Blue and Steve skidooed back home. That's when the viewer spotted the third clue, which is a pillow. That's also when Steve realized we had all 3 clues and it was time to sit in the thinking chair. It was time to think. We were trying to figure out what time it is for Blue, and our clues were a blanket, a book, and a pillow. At first, Steve thought Blue wanted to wrap the pillow in the blanket and read it a story. That was wrong. Then the viewer guessed correctly that it was nap time for Blue. She wanted a pillow to rest her head on, a blanket to keep her warm, and she wanted Steve to read her a story to help her go to sleep. At that point, Steve realized we just figured out Blue's clues. After the quiet and peaceful celebratory song, Blue got her pillow and blanket, and Steve got her favorite story, A Puppy's Day. Then Tickety Talk comes back to remind us how we helped her put her pieces back together. The Jungle Friends come back to remind us how we found them by imitating them. Then Steve read the story. It turns out this was a story about what happened today. Then everyone fell asleep except Steve, who had to say goodbye. After a fun day, it was time to say so long, but sing just one more song. Now let's talk about the episode as a whole. I feel like kids can learn a lot if they want to learn about figuring out what time it is. Not only that, but they can learn about patterning and imitating animals. All in all, it's a pretty good episode. So yeah, that's Telling Time with Blue. If you would like to play again, just go back to the beginning of this episode. And remember, you can do anything that you want to do. Bye!